People get scared when I say I spend 5 to 10 grand a month on Facebook ads. But if I just get one client from that, who's then worth $50,000, $100,000, then fine by me.
This is Stewart Vickers, once an art history student, now a well-known name in SEO. He runs a fast-growing agency and invests in SaaS, and people even call him SEO Jesus. In just 6 months, he grew his agency to $68K a month. And in this episode, he shares exactly how he did it and what actually works in SEO today.
You scale your agency to 60K in 6 months, which is no mean feat. So, what are the crucial systems or SOPs, strategies that made that possible?
What not many people actually talk about, which I highly recommend, is really investing in an A-player manager who can basically be your CEO, be your operator. So this is someone who's basically a high-level account manager.
How do you think backlinks, guest posts, digital PR work, and what is its importance in modern SEO?
The fact is, as long as you're still keeping an eye on the overall metrics and you've got that healthy ratio of inbound to outbound links, it still seems if you build 10 links a month, it's still a hell of a lot better than not building links. And they say guest posting doesn't work anymore. I can tell from all my clients that's not the case.
E-coffee with experts.
So, hey, Stewart, how's it going?
Ranmay, very good, thank you.
Great, Stewart. Before we move any forward and pick your brains on SEO, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit? How did you start your entrepreneurial journey from studying art, history at UCL to now being known as SEO Jesus? How was it like, and what were the challenges that you faced?
I keep trying to shorten this as much as possible. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, mainly because even in school, hated getting up in the morning. I'm in the UK, so getting up at 7, it's dark, it's cold, I'm not a morning person. And I thought, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. I've got to get out. So always creative-minded, always had a sort of entrepreneurial mindset, but never really knew what it was actually going to be. Kind of wanted to be a writer. At UCL, history of art was kind of a compromise where I still wanted to do art and painting, but it was more of a solid humanities grounding where it seemed like I could realistically get a job out of it. But in the short term, there wasn't a whole load of contact time, and I was just loving London life. So, and that, of course, comes at a cost. So I thought, I'm not spending much time on my degree, so I might as well look for some part-time work. And I got this job blogging for a menswear company. And they literally told me that you write these blogs, you use these keywords, and that allows us to sell more menswear by ranking on Google. And that was this sort of transformative moment for me, that this sort of creative writing approach that I really wanted to develop, I never thought I could actually make a career out of it. And then I found there's this whole field of digital marketing that is all about writing. So then joined a online journalism startup. That was less SEO and much more about viral Facebook traffic. And then with that, I then started my own sites. And again, largely relying on social media traffic, which at the time was the wrong thing to do. But more recently, we're seeing more people now go back into social media traffic.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, really struggled until about 6 months down the line, certain articles were continuing to get traffic and make affiliate sales. And that's when it really clicked about what SEO actually was. It wasn't just stuffing some keyword into the bottom of your article in the Yoast box because you've written this random article and let's put some relevant term in the bottom. It was about identifying what people are already searching for and fulfilling that. So in this case, this is when Fortnite was exploding, and a company had just brought out some Fortnite Halloween costumes, and I'd written an article on this months before, but now my article was #1 for Fortnite costumes and cosplay, and therefore I was getting commissions from that. So with that, kept on building sites. In the meantime, I had run out of money and I got a day job, but it was this interesting interplay between my side hustle sites and my day job, applying the learnings between the two. Every morning I was commuting into work, listening to all the SEO podcasts, whether it was Empire Flippers, Authority Hacker, loads like that, and just absorbing everything I could until finally I got to a point where I really was able to start a website, publish 100 pages, all best X for Y review articles, things like that. So only publishing what people were searching for within a niche, monetizing it with affiliates, and that did really well. And then with that knowledge, I then applied that to the insurance company I was working with, and suddenly I went from, this website was all about shaving. So I basically went from selling a $20 razor to then selling a $2,000 insurance product. So they obviously really liked me. They'd been spending 10 grand a month on paid ads and not really selling anything. But then just a few blog posts that I wrote ranked at #1, and then they started making 50 grand a month. So that's when it all clicked. And it wasn't long after that I started the agency. So I actually got headhunted to a much bigger insurance company, and they had not just 1, but 2 SEO agencies working for them. And I saw the work that was coming through, and I thought, I can do that so much better. And they tried to give me a bit more control and authority within the company, But realistically, it was this big corporate machine, so I couldn't really do a lot.
Yeah.
So I thought, you're literally telling me now I should really just leave and start my own agency, which is exactly what happened.
All right. Quite a story, quite a journey, I must say. Now, coming to your agency, Stewart, you scale your agency to 60K in 6 months, which is no mean feat. So, what are the crucial systems or SOPs, strategies that made that possible?
Number one, I'd say, is productization. In the early days, when you're first getting a couple of clients, you probably are going to have to be a bit more custom, a bit more bespoke,
Yeah.
maybe a bit more flexible on pricing. But as soon as you want to get above that, once you're at sort of 5 to 10K a month, you really need to focus on product and systems and staff. So be really clear about what it is you actually deliver. You can have different pricing packages, but each one of those should be really quite clear cut so that basically clients aren't particularly different. You want the same simple SOP you can deliver every time. Now, maybe the basic plan, maybe it's just content, citations, keyword research, something like that. And then you reserve the guest posting or the digital PR for the advanced plan. But the point is, you could have 10 of the advanced customers, 10 of the basic customers. Each delivery is really streamlined. Then after that, it's really about the right people. So we all start off with VAs. Well, we all start off on our own. And I meet so many SEO consultants where they've got a couple of clients and they think they're doing really well. And they are doing really well, but they're doing well at giving themselves a job. So if you were in a day job making 50 to 100 grand a year, and you've quit that day job, you've got a few clients, and you're now making 5 to 10K a month independently, and you can work wherever you want, then that seems like a win to a lot of people. But the fact is, it's not going to take much tweaking for you to get out of that situation and then into a situation where you're making 50 grand a month. You can't really take time off or holidays if you're still dependent on the operations, if you're still doing most of the delivery. So you really need to stop being an operator. Once you've defined your pricing packages like that and you're really clear about what you actually deliver, it's then very easy to then get your virtual assistants, basically, who can be really specialized in each of those tasks. The place people get stuck is virtual assistants still need management. So loads of people have headaches. You'll still be feeling burnt out because you're running a team, teaching them, monitoring everything. And also, and this is the issue with agencies, you've got a lot of people involved on all sides. You're talking to all these clients and you're talking to all your team members. And that's where you get stuck. So what not many people actually talk about, which I highly recommend, is really investing in an A-player manager who can basically be your CEO, be your operator. So this is someone who's basically a high-level account manager. They can talk to the clients, but they can also look at the websites technically. They understand what's going on, and they can brief the team on what's involved and manage that team. So you're basically looking at this pyramid structure where you're taking yourself out of it. You can just focus on lead gen, but you've got this A-player operator who can basically keep the machine working without you having to be involved day to day. And that means you can focus on growth, and then it simply becomes a maths problem of scaling. So in our case, and what I largely teach is about using Facebook ads, because for a high ticket service like an agency, Facebook ads really work well. It's quite challenging with low ticket products, but when you've got an average customer lifetime value that could be $50,000 to $100,000, then the chances are you can hit Facebook ads really hard. And even if you don't sign up many clients, you'll still end up making money in the long run because of that high lifetime value.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like you have quite an autopilot mode going on there.
Yeah. So a lot of my growth was through YouTube. So that initial spike you mentioned, that was largely driven by YouTube, which was fantastic at the time, but it's a lot of work. I was doing a YouTube video every day. And what happens is it's all built on my personal brand. So clients want to speak to me and they're disappointed when they don't get to speak to me personally. So that's not a good way to grow. And also just in terms of building an asset, you don't want to be involved in the day-to-day because then your whole agency relies on you being there pumping out content and you don't really have a sellable asset. It's not a good acquisition target. So it was a big shift for me to get out of the YouTube grind and into the Facebook ads, where really understanding this cost to acquire a customer versus customer lifetime value. So people get scared when I say I spend 5 to 10 grand a month on Facebook ads. But if I just get one client from that, who's then worth $50,000, $100,000, then fine by me.
Absolutely. Talking more about your journey, you've acquired and transformed Whisper backlink exchange platform. How do you see backlinks, Stewart? I mean, we do backlinks very rigorously and have a clear SOP and a robust one in terms of how we go about doing it. Would love to understand your take on it. How do you think backlinks, guest posts, digital PR work, and what is its importance in modern SEO?
It's more important than ever. So a few years ago, you really could get away with topical authority. You could just write hundreds of pages and unlock that sort of hidden bonus, if you like, where everyone else on page one could be a DR 50 and then you're only a DR 10 or 20. But if you had your 400 pages of closely relevant content, you really could outrank them. But recent Google updates, the last 3 years or so, have really gone the other way and proved that backlinks are everything. It's a very clear correlation. And yeah, I'm still shocked at just the lack of understanding of backlinks. So originally I started my agency as a link building agency. And that was basically because with my websites, I'd hesitated on link building for years. I didn't understand it. I didn't want to get into penalties. But what you realize is so much of the discourse around link building, all the information out there, all comes from agencies selling their services. So of course they're going to tell you, don't build links because you'll get it wrong, or there's 99 ways to build links, but only my way is the right way. The reality was, as soon as I just tried it, so I did some outreach, did some guest posting, did some link insertions, and suddenly my traffic took off. And I thought it was so much simpler than I'd built it up in my head so much that it was going to be so complicated. And that's when I realized that with my link building agency, with my agency, I was just going to focus on the backlinks because content, everyone's got their own idea of content. Everyone can do a pretty good job of content, but the link building side was much more of a gray area. And I had a system that was working for my websites. So I thought, why not scale that to my clients? But in terms of more recent developments in link building, it's really interesting. So most content websites have been hit by Google updates. And I'm not saying it's a penalty. It's just very clear now that Google doesn't seem to be rewarding content sites anymore. So most agencies will have our minimum requirements in terms of domain rating and traffic and other checklist criteria. At the time I started my agency, most people only required a traffic to the domain of a couple of hundred or so. I was one of the first agencies to say we want a minimum traffic of 1,000. However, what we're finding now is if you outreach to all, you go through your competitors for that particular keyword, scrape all their backlink profiles, reach out to all those websites, you'll very often find that of those that get back to you, most of them have lost a lot of traffic now, and very few will actually be above that 1,000 traffic threshold. And if they are, then you need to check where that traffic is actually coming from, because they're all manipulating their traffic in different ways. So yeah, people do push back now and they say guest posting doesn't work anymore. I can tell from all my clients that's not the case. It doesn't matter how badly these websites have been linking out all over the place. The fact is, as long as you're still keeping an eye on the overall metrics and you've got that healthy ratio of inbound to outbound links, it still seems if you build 10 links a month, it's still a hell of a lot better than not building links.
Absolutely.
I still believe
obviously no link farms and all that stuff, right? It has to be bulletproof in terms of any future Google updates. So if you're doing the right thing the right way, I don't see any harm there. In fact, you're going to benefit out of it.
Exactly. So link farms have always been a problem. And there's a very broad spectrum in terms of what is a link farm. This nice blogger who realized they could get a bit of a side income by selling a few links now and then, that's not really a problem. On the other hand, you've got some of these websites where they might not even have bought an expired domain. They might have registered a fresh domain. They've gone onto Fiverr and ordered a DR manipulation boost to push them up to DR 60 overnight. And they've published a load of spammy content. So allegedly, they're a DR 60 with 5,000 a month traffic. And then you realize it's all just spoofing Ahrefs. It's not actually got that power. Whereas, if it's a blogger who maybe they lost a lot of traffic 2 years ago, but they realized they were still in demand for link building, as long as they're not literally linking out to everyone, if they don't have 100 casinos they're linking out to, then I don't have a problem. And again, it's this mixed bag where just because they're linking out to a few people, I'd still say a good guest post on a website is still better than not having any guest posts, even if that website is linking out to a lot of other websites. So you've got to be balanced and moderate in your strategy. So many people come to me saying, I only want the perfect links. I'm only looking for these dream links. I'm saying you're just not going to get them because, like I say, the number of websites out there that have good metrics has shrunk after all these Google updates. So you can't afford to be fussy. You're never going to build a link if you're going to be too particular about the metrics. So the reason Visper really appealed to me, so this was a WordPress plugin that basically facilitated link swaps. Now, link swaps are one of those slightly controversial categories where you don't want to rely on it as your only strategy, but if you're just mixing it into the broader strategy and cocktail,
absolutely, I was about to say that,
then why not? What we're seeing at the moment, especially, is there's a lot of volatility with Google with recent updates. Google's now got this spam brain algorithm where the update comes along, some sites go down, some sites go up, and it's very difficult to tell what's going on. No one really knows. So you can put all your resources into a really good high quality website and still get tanked. On the other hand, you can have not so good a website and that takes off for some reason. So what I really recommend and what I'm teaching a lot of at the moment is what I call minimum viable content. You want to minimize the cost to rank. So if I'm going into a niche I'll typically register 5 to 10 domains in that niche, and I'll put basic AI content on there and just do basic foundation links, citations, press release, and then I'll come back a few weeks later and I'll see how they're performing. Because if they're performing without any investment, then there's a good chance if we go hard on that website, then it's going to take off very nicely. So these days, I'm really excited about how you can reduce that cost to rank, whether it's simple citations, that's listings in local business directories, simple press releases. But the backlink exchange, that really appealed to me because you get this plugin for less than $100 a year. You install it on your website and all these users of the plugin will all link to each other through it. Now, there's even a blacklisting feature where you can go through and say, I don't want that one, but I do want these ones. So I just had a look at a couple of the users of this plugin, and I realized they were getting something like $500 to $1,000 worth of backlinks to each of them, because I had a look at them and we had all in the DR40s, these lots of law firms. These were real businesses where if you sent them an outreach email, they would never respond to you. They're perfectly happy to swap links through this plugin. So when the investment opportunity came along, I couldn't resist. It seemed like for $100, less than $100, you could get more than $500 of link value. So now when I build a site, it's citations, it's press release, and then we put this link swap plugin on it, and then instantly get about 100 referring domains from real niche relevant businesses.
Absolutely. Moving on, Stewart, you have built an exclusive mastermind community, right? So how do you feel in terms of in today's world to do networking, to do personal branding for entrepreneurs? Right now, we're doing this podcast. So how important do you feel it is for entrepreneurs, or let's say people are trying to make a mark, to kind of personal brand them and do these high level networking events to also kind of have that networking thing going for them?
In the early days, it's absolutely essential. So when I quit my day job to start the agency, my colleagues were joking, saying Stuart's going to be a digital nomad. And I said, no, I actually really like London. I think I'm staying put. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Colombia at the very last minute because I got an invitation to quite a high level mastermind event, and specifically for 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. Now, this opportunity came along and it was basically 30 of them were going to have this little conference and then go whitewater rafting in the rainforest. And I thought, I've just quit my day job. I've sold one of my websites, so I've got a bit of a cash pile and I want to get more clients for my agency. What better way could there be than going into a room with these people who are all performing at a high level? They've all got deep pockets and you can just spend a weekend having fun with them, basically. So, and that worked well. So my first 6 figures really did come from that in-person networking. What you also find is, of course, your knowledge goes up a lot as well. And a lot of the teachings and learnings I was getting from some of these events, I wasn't able to implement those right away. But now as my business has grown, a bit like recently, I've gone more into, as you say, the mastermind and courses. Suddenly, all these years of learnings about how to run a course business are coming back to me. And I learned those at in-person events over the years. But also, your knowledge goes up significantly just from the conversations you have, especially in the SEO niche. You'll meet these incredible people who don't have a personal brand, don't have any presence, and yet they'll be absolutely crushing it at their particular niche. And they'll be quite open with how they do it. If you're having, a quiet cocktail in a bar in Chiang Mai, they're not going to go on YouTube and talk about it or a podcast. But if you're in the room and you're doing this sort of fair exchange of information, I'll give you information if you give me some information. There's really friendly. As an industry, we've actually got a very supportive community where
Very true. Very true.
we're all working with this complete, black box. No one actually knows what's going on, but therefore it's in our interest to crowdsource and share information. Absolutely get out to events. If there's any sort of upsell opportunity where you can get the VIP dinner or anything like that, just buy it, because you might get a client out of it, or you might have a conversation that just takes your business to a new level.
Absolutely. No, I agree with this point of yours. As an industry, we do share a lot. Unlike other industries, I see a lot of, groups and people talk about real successes of their clients without being worried if their trick is going to be applied by some, other agency or other competition. In fact, they would love to, right? People share tricks, share campaigns, real numbers, what has actually worked, not worked. So as an industry overall, we do share a lot of information and tricks. So, that is the best part when you get into these rooms, because, they share like knowledge bombs there.
Yeah, don't forget that we've got a lot of celebrities in our niche, but as soon as you get in the room with them, you realize just how open and accessible they are. You turn up in Chiang Mai and you just immediately run into these people. I've been invited to their houses within 48 hours of meeting some of them. So there's the concept of no gods, no idols. In the SEO world, it doesn't matter how big someone's personal brand is. Generally, they're still going to be very willing to talk to you and help you out.
Absolutely. Can't agree more with you. Great, Stewart. And before we wrap this up, quick rapid fire. I hope you're game for it.
Yep.
All right. Your last Google search.
Good question. What was it actually? It might have been some sort of currency conversion, something like that.
You're traveling somewhere?
Vietnam for the SEO Mastery Summit.
Oh, Saigon one. All right. See you there. The next one, Stewart, where do we find you on Friday evenings post office or post work?
London's got a very good community in the sort of goth and metal scene. So normally in a metal bar, somewhere like that. Sometimes I like to go classy and I'll go into Mayfair and have a nice dinner or something like that. But normally it's a dark and dingy metal bar.
All right. And favorite sport?
I'm not really into sport. I don't know, Formula One. So.
Okay, I was about to ask you which part of London, Chelsea, Arsenal. So, but yeah, I mean, that stands null and void now. Okay. All right, moving on. Your celebrity crush.
It'd be between Eva Green and Margot Robbie.
Okay. All right, the last one will not drill you any further. If you remember doing what you did, with your first paycheck of your life.
I don't actually remember. I think I basically just banked it.
All right, don't worry. Okay, Stewart, this has been a brilliant session. Thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us. And the last one for our audiences, if you want to share any advice, especially the young ones out there who are trying to make a market in the digital marketing niche, SEO niche, or let's say starting out on their entrepreneurial journey, what advice would you want to give to them?
I'd say get into a service business sooner rather than later. I mean, loads of us get into this sort of side hustle mentality where let's find some hack where we can make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. But actually, what you're much better off doing is coming up with some sort of product or service offering that's valuable to business owners and just do that. It might seem a bit too much like a job, might seem a bit businessy, but the fact is your side hustle is probably only going to work for a few months or so and only make $500 a month. Whereas as soon as you find something that's desirable to business owners, then you could build a serious business on that. You could get up to 7 figures. So one example I always like to give is press release providers. They'll often let you buy in bulk and give you really good pricing if you buy in bulk. So if you can scrape together the funds to spend $5,000 maybe on some bulk press releases, your press releases might only cost $10. You can sell them for $200. And that's something you could scale with cold email, something like that. AI automation is a popular one at the moment. So if you go to these business owners where they're fed up, if they've got a live chat or email support, they're going to be fed up with answering the same questions over and over again that are still on the website. So all you need to do is take their website as a knowledge base, build an AI chatbot out of it that's trained on that data, and then just email them and say, hey, are you fed up of repeating yourself all the time on customer support? Our AI chatbot is fully trained on all your data. That's going to save you hours every day.
Absolutely. Great, Stewart. Once again, thank you. And this has been a great session. I'm sure the audience would love it. And cheers, man.
Great. Thank you very much.